Good morning from the Chelsea Flower Show. It's the first time in 108 years this show has been held in the autumn, of course, due to the pandemic. The weather today, for most of us, it's going to be dry. There'll be some sunny spells, the showers in the southeast easing, but more cloud and some patchy rain coming into the northwest later. I'll have all the details in about 10 minutes.
Just over an hour's time.
7:20ish, there you go.
Now, Carol is out at the Chelsea Flower Show this morning, which is different this year, isn't it? For the first time in more than a century. Of course, it's taking place in September. Morning, Carol.
Morning.
Good morning, both. Good morning to you as well. Of course, it's been postponed to the autumn this year because of the pandemic, but it still is glorious. It's dark. That's really unusual for the Chelsea Flower Show because earlier in the year, of course, it's much brighter. So let's take a look at the garden behind me. Now, this is the Yeo Valley Garden, designed by Tom Massey, and it's very much designed to nurture soil health, enhance biodiversity, support pollinators, and energise wildlife. And you see that egg-shaped seat just over there. The base of that is glass. So if you were sitting in it, you'd have a cracking view of the stream right underneath it. Now, talking of cracking, the weather today is not too bad either. For most of us, it is going to be dry with a fair bit of sunshine. And for the next few days, the forecast remains fairly settled. It's really until we get to Wednesday when things start to change and turn a bit more unsettled, certainly in the north, and we'll also see the wind pick up for some, maybe even touching gale force in the far north. But today it's a chilly start across rural parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, similar to today, just getting in to the 20s. After that, Sal and Dan, it turns a wee bit more unsettled in the northern half of the country.
Oh, Carol, I love that pod behind you, by the way. Is there a little sofa in there, maybe, for a little lie down 10 minutes later?
Do you know, you can be winched up, Dan. That's the one that's got the glass bottom, so if you're sitting on it, you can look down and see the stream. I don't know if I went in, it would probably crash into the stream, so we'll leave it at that.
No way, Carol. Thank you very much. We'll see you a bit later on. Looks lovely there this morning.
I reckon there'll be one of those in Carol's garden within the next few weeks. Carol's got a beautiful garden. I can see that fitting right in.
Shall we have a look at some of the papers for you? Chelsea Flower Show? Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I can tell you like that.
I haven't been.
But I've not been either, but I know
Haven't
it's
you?
good. I'm
aware.
I've been.
Oh, right, OK. Well, I love watching
With Carol.
I love watching
Yeah.
Carol
Yeah.
there. But it's a weird
Beautiful.
time of year, this. September for the first time in a gazillion years, isn't it?
But in my head, I think it's going to be a bit more like a harvest festival, isn't it?
Right.
Pumpkins and
Where's your marrows,
vegetables.
Carol? Morning. Oh, right, sorry, no, Carol's not
Being a
there
bit
yet,
previous,
sorry.
Actually, for the first time in more than a century, as we've been saying, Chelsea Flower Show is going to be held in September.
That's right.
So it means that I was right, pumpkins and autumnal colours.
Correct. Members of the royal family and celebrities will get a first glimpse of the show before it opens to the public. You should always listen before speaking. Our correspondent Daniela Relf will be here and then we'll speak to Carol.
The finishing touches. A final flourish. The pressure to get it just right. Chelsea is looking autumnal. The change in date this year means late summer flowers like asters and dahlias are in their prime. And a September show gives designers a chance to display a warmer and grassier look. Here, it's all about the trees. David Dodd has designed the Queen's Green Canopy Garden to celebrate next year's Platinum Jubilee.
We've got a field maple here, and the field maple, it just gives the most spectacular yellow colour. And you can see up there, it's already starting to turn now.
It sits on the largest plot at Chelsea. 21 trees have been planted with grassland, hay bales and a wildflower meadow.
If everyone can get behind the campaign and plant a tree, we can make a huge impact and a huge difference to the environment. And you've got to think about what trees give us. And when I was asked to do it, I got very excited because I'm a bit of a tree hugger.
And just finally, do you think the Queen would like this garden?
I certainly hope so. I might be off to the Tower if she doesn't.
The autumnal look is everywhere, with a focus on harvest fruit and vegetables.
An autumn Chelsea will have a different feel and a different mood. But the show also hopes to capture that love of gardening and the outdoors that many of us discovered during lockdowns.
Giant window boxes in the COP26 garden to mark the UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow later this year. The message, even if you don't have a garden, planting small flowers and shrubs can help combat the effects of climate change. And a tribute to nursing in the Florence Nightingale Garden, marking 200 years since her birth. There are medicinal flowers here with a focus on well-being, and late summer foxgloves, her favourite flower, ready to plant. Some special guests got an early viewing, but these nurses will also be able to enjoy the garden after the flower show, when it's moved to St Thomas's Hospital in London.
Florence Nightingale was very much a forward-thinking nurse. A lot of what we do today is very much embedded in what she taught us, nursing at the forefront, and you know that's where we still are.
Massive privilege. I think for a lot of nurses I think they'll be overwhelmed by it, if I'm really honest, and they'll be really proud to see someone saying thank you for all the hard work they've done.
A Chelsea Flower Show in September has brought its challenges for everyone involved. It's likely to be a one-off chance to enjoy the unfamiliar sights an autumn show brings. Daniela Ralph, BBC News, Chelsea.
You were right.
Can we now go to Carol?
Yes, we can. Good morning, Carol.
I'm so excited to get Carol on the programme. I'll basically just do the whole thing with her.
Exactly.
Good morning, Carol.
That's okay by me, Dan. You nearly gave me a heart attack a few minutes ago. I was in the middle of a conversation with one of the designers. What? Anyway, good morning, everybody. We are at the Chelsea Flower Show, and as Dan and Sal were saying earlier, it's been 108 years since, in fact, never have they had an autumnal Chelsea Flower Show before, and it's because of the pandemic. And behind me, if I get out of the way, you can see this spectacular garden. It's the Guangzhou Garden. It takes inspiration from Guangzhou, the city between mountain and water, and these big dome-like features at the back represent skyscrapers, and it illustrates how to create green space, cleaner air, and at the same time provide somewhere for wildlife to live. So basically it connects people and nature in city environments. And the Chelsea Flower Show this year is showing the importance of well-being and fresh air. And the plants are quite different from what we're used to as well. We're used to more of the summer plants when the Chelsea Flower Show happens in May. Now we're looking at more asters, more salvias, that kind of thing. It's gorgeous. Now, the weather today for many of us is going to be fairly settled, and the weather for the next few days, the forecast, is actually also going to be fairly settled. There'll be some sunny spells, but top temperature around 21 degrees. Sal and Dan, I can't tell you how lovely it is to be back here. Normality has been restored once again.
Carol, I cannot tell you how lovely it is to see you at Chelsea. That is brilliant.
See you later on, Carol.
Thanks, Sal.
Now, it's been a busy weekend for you, hasn't it?
Good morning from the Chelsea Flower Show. It's the first time in 108 years it's been held in the autumn, of course, due to the pandemic. The weather today, dry with sunny spells for most of us, showers easing in the southeast, but later we'll see some rain coming in across the northwest. I'll have all the details in 10 minutes.
You're moving.
Yeah, he was fantastic. He spoke so openly and brutally honest about it, which I think probably helps him and has helped a lot of other people as well. And we'll have more on that concert, how it went, and we'll show you that on tomorrow's programme.
It is 7:10. Carol is out at the Chelsea Flower Show for us this morning, which for the first time in a century is taking place in September, but she is not alone. Morning, Carol.
Oh, who's this gorgeous creature?
Good morning. Come on. This is Flash. Now, the guide dogs have a 90th anniversary garden here, and Flash is one of the doggies you'll see if you come down today. Now, she's a friend of the programme. She was actually on our programme on the 28th of April with her trainer Mel, when she took a little bit of a nibble out of Mel's hand. And she was only 18 weeks old then. Now, she's grown a bit since then, and she's very well behaved, I must say, as well, and just gorgeous. In fact, the first guide dogs for the blind were actually 4 German Shepherds. But as you can see, she's a beautiful, beautiful Labrador. Now, the weather today, in fact, the forecast for the next few days, is going to be fairly settled. There will be some sunny spells around as well. And then as we move on from Wednesday, it turns a bit more unsettled. So this morning, it's a chilly start across rural parts of Scotland, England, and also Wales. Northern Ireland also having a bit of a chilly start in rural parts. But for most, it's going to be dry. There'll be some sunshine. A bit more cloud across Lincolnshire into the southeast with 1 or 2 showers. And then later on in the day, what you find is a new weather front coming in across Northern Ireland. And there'll be some clear skies with temperatures falling between about 9 and 13 degrees. And then into tomorrow, well, most of us again having a dry day. There'll be some sunny spells around. But through the day, a new weather front coming in across the northwest will introduce thicker cloud and again some spots of rain, and the wind will pick up here as well. Temperatures up to about 21 degrees. It's after that it turns wetter and windier in the north. Isn't she absolutely gorgeous? Young Flash here. I think she likes my cable, so I might not be with you for the rest of the morning. But she's gorgeous.
Oh, I think you got a good friend there already. Go on, Flash.
Oh, I think she likes Adrian, the cameraman.
Well, who doesn't?
Thank
you very much for that, Carol. See you later on.
I think Flash has just spotted a treat. Look, she's gone. She's gone.
We've got a Kirkwood down. We've got a Kirkwood down. Someone save Carol.
Flash is strong.
Are you all right, Carol?
I think she's lost her earpiece. Okay.
We're
Carol, we're just checking that you're okay.
Are you okay?
Are you all right?
Yes. Yes. She's a very strong girl, Flash. She went back to her trainer, Mel. He's on the other side of the camera.
Excellent. We're glad you're okay. Thank you, Carol.
Don't you love live television?
Some high drama there at 7:15. Carol's all right.
Carol's pumps on the floor.
She's laughing her head off. I think she might have lost a shoe. Right, let's return to our top story for footballer told me once. If you ask somebody 3 questions about them and they haven't asked you one about you, then they're not worth your time.
No.
Really, it's a
good rule for life.
Yeah, exactly. Find people who are interested in others.
Exactly.
Carol is out the Chelsea Flower Show this morning. And Carol, we saw Flash in the last time we spoke to you, causing a bit of a rumpus at the end. Have you got rid of Flash or is he still there?
No, he's moved on, Dan. Good morning, everybody. We're at the RHS Flower Show. It hasn't been held in the autumn for 108 years, or in fact, ever. It's the first time, of course, due to the pandemic. And this is the RHS COP26 garden designed by Marie-Louise Adrius. Now, it might not look as becoming as many of the gardens, but this area you can see here represents flooding and building on flooding areas as well, floodplains. And basically, it's showing also how gardening and gardeners can play a very important role in mitigating climate change, looking at issues such as managing soil and managing water runoff as well, and also the different plants suited to extreme weather conditions. Perhaps, though, behind me is the most symbolic of them all, and that's the Ginkgo tree just there on the horizon. Now, that has survived multiple extinctions and is still going strong. And you can see from the kaleidoscope of colour behind me, all the autumnal flowers, dahlias, for example, quite popular here at the Chelsea Flower Show this year. It's quite cloudy in London this morning. For many of us, for the next few days, the forecast is settled. There'll be a lot of dry weather around 1 degrees. One thing I must say, Dan and Sal, is that it's so tranquil and calm here. It's lovely.
Well, it is now anyway. It wasn't earlier with Flash, but that's good to hear.
Yeah. When Flash was dragging you around like a rag doll, it wasn't the same as it. Thanks, Carol.
She's such a wee rascal. Pleasure.
See you later on.
Should I say spoiler alert?
Oh.
BBC Bite Size online learning for all children.
Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Dan Walker and Sally Nugent.
That we have the supplies that we want, make sure that we don't...
Just a bit late, aren't we? 3 minutes past 8, apologies. Crisis Talks on...
Bill hitting your pocket. Good morning, I Look Today.
And the Emmy goes to...
Good morning from the RHS Chelsea Flower Show. First time in 108 years that it's been held in the autumn, of course, due to the pandemic. The weather today for most of us is going to be dry, a bit more cloud in the southeast with the odd heavy shower, and later a front coming into the northwest will introduce some rain. But I'll have all the details in about 10 minutes.
Quite good, isn't she?
That surprised, is it me face? That was perfect,
Yes.
wasn't it? What, me? You mean me? I've won again. There are some fantastic actors.
Absolutely brilliant.
They're all called actors, aren't they, these days? We've got a full package from Sophie Long, who was watching the Emmys from Los Angeles in about half an hour's time.
Now, it's slightly different Chelsea Flower Show this year because normally it would happen earlier in the year.
Yeah.
A bit more autumnal feel about it.
As you said earlier, a bit more like a harvest festival.
Perhaps.
Bring in your tins of beans and your marrows.
A very glamorous harvest festival.
Carol arrived at work this morning with a large pumpkin under each arm. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for that, Dan. It is lovely to be back at the Chelsea Flower Show. You know, it's the first time in 108 years that it's been held during the autumn months, of course, due to the pandemic recently. And you can see how magnificent this garden is, designed by David Dodd. We'll be speaking to him in about half an hour. And it's called the Queen's Green Canopy Garden, which is promoting the Queen's Platinum Jubilee next year. It's the largest garden here at the Chelsea Flower Show, and it highlights the importance of trees and woodlands to encourage individuals, companies and groups to actually get out there and plant trees. And there are 3,500 plants and 21 trees in this particular plot. Now, you might have caught a glimpse of the skyline there. It's fairly cloudy at the moment here in London. And for many of us, the forecast for the next few days will remain settled and there will be some sun. After that, Sal and Dan, it looks like it's going to turn more unsettled. First of all, in the north of the country with some wet and windy weather coming our way.
Oh, Carol, thanks very much indeed. It's great to see you at gorgeous Chelsea this morning.
Always love a bit of Chelsea Flower Show. Thank you, Carol. Now, we're going to turn to our top story for you. It's in glamour there, isn't it? Carol is out and about today. You might be thinking, why is the Chelsea Flower Show taking place in September? Well, everything's been affected by what we've been going through the last 18 months, and Carol is there this morning, and it's looking lovely. Good morning, Carol.
It certainly is, Dan. Good morning, everyone. And I'm joined by David Dodd. So, David, if we can get straight into this. You designed this garden we're in, the Queen's Green Canopy. Tell us a bit about it.
Well, the Queen's Green Canopy is an initiative starting in a couple of weeks on the 1st of October in celebration of the Jubilee, and it's encouraging everyone in the country, in the UK, to plant a tree. And the importance, and it's highlighting the importance of tree planting, creating canopies, creating better habitat for wildlife, climate change, all the benefits we're going to have if everyone plants a tree.
Now, was it quite different this year because, of course, the Chelsea Flower Show is taking place in autumn and not in May, to choose what you were going to plant?
Absolutely. It's the whole planting palette became a lot more challenging because if you think about in spring, everything's just coming out into bloom, whereas in autumn, everything's starting to go into sort of recession slightly. So choosing plants which are going to be looking beautiful this time of year, because it is still a flower show, but luckily there are enough varieties to look good in September.
So what have you got in the garden?
So there's sort of four main zones of the garden, and we've got just meadow, which is very low in biodiversity. We then go into the wildflower meadow, which is better for butterflies and insects, and then we go into the woodland planting. And the Queen's Green Canopy, if we can encourage more woodland planting, that's the greatest habitat for wildlife.
Is it stressful putting together a garden for the Chelsea Flower Show because you have such a short amount of time in which to do it, although it looks like it's been here for years?
Yeah, I mean, we always take on 2 or 3 gardens as well at Chelsea, so it's even more challenging. Is it stressful? Incredibly stressful. But we always try and reassure other designers and people we're working with that it is going to happen. And so far, after having done over 30 show gardens, we've never let anyone down.
Over 30, that's quite an achievement. What's going to happen to this garden at the end of the flower show?
Well, it's fantastic that there is a legacy to the garden, and the trees are going up to RHS Bridgewater, and they're going to be planted permanently. Obviously, this is only a temporary show, but they're going to have a permanent home afterwards.
David, it looks fantastic. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so very much. Now, it's not just the garden that's fantastic, the weather's been kind to us today as well. In fact, the forecast for the next few days is a fairly settled one. It's been such a pleasure being back here at the RHS Chelsea Flower Show. Autumn is just as pretty as it is in May.
Has looked really lovely there today, Carol. Thank you very much for that. We'll see you, on tomorrow. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Yes, see you tomorrow.
Lovely.
It's great having Carol back, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. What, Matt's all right, though, isn't it?
Nothing wrong with that.
So glad to get rid of Matt.
Oh, stop.
So difficult to work with. They're all lovely.
Do love Carol.
Yes, I know. Now, fans of Only Fools and Horses have been